For like, do you have any what are your hot takes? Do you have any like anything that's like out there that's like, it's like, what are your hot takes? Is there
Yeah,
anything
probably the main one is that I think rape is bad and I think pedophilia is bad. Those are the two main ones.
That's a hot take?
Yeah.
Well, you being sarcastic? Like what? I don't get it.
Yes. Yes.
I'm like, what's
I'm
like your hot, like a hot take out there that you just like drop, like, you know, like Mr. Girl thinks that, you know, it's like the girls in cuties was hot. Like that's a hot take, right? This is like what I'm talking. Like the rape is
sure.
bad.
I mean,
this is like,
it's a joke, dude. But
oh, okay.
The I mean, I guess I don't know. So like controversial opinions that I hold is like I'm especially in this space is I'm pro-life. I have I've had tons of like debates and things on like pedophilia that people feel or make them uncomfortable. There's yeah, like I don't know. I don't know. Generally, there's.
Do you think that a girl that texts a guy, let's say she just like this 15, you think that a 15-year-old girl that seduces her teacher, her high school teacher, do you think that she holds any responsibility for her actions?
Yeah, of course.
As far as what exactly? Like,
as far as like the choices that she made.
Oh, yeah, of course you would criticize the teacher, right? Of course he's the adult or whatever, he should know better. But like, if you were to tell the 15-year-old girl, like, what would you tell them? Like, okay, but you, on the other hand, like, what would?
Yeah, like that's a, yeah, like they are still making the choice, like, to do these things. So yeah, they're still like getting the teacher in trouble. They're still.
Will you call out for getting the teacher in trouble?
I don't know that I would call them out for getting the teacher in trouble, but I'm saying, like, as an individual, yeah, I would hope that their parents like sit them down and are like, hey, you should not be doing this. Like, you should not be approaching adults. You shouldn't be trying to have sex with adults. Like, you need to like be with kids your own age. Like, yeah, of course. That
so
would be like an expectation of any parent who has a kid who does that.
So you would victim shame her. A woman that actually, a little girl, a 15-year-old that gets probably raped. What do they call that? What kind of rape is that? When it's like it's like consensual, but at the same time, it's fuck, I forgot the name of the. It's like some sort of rape, whatever. It's like, of course, it's illegal to have sex with like an underage person, especially like you being the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But if this were to happen, you would assume that the 15-year-old girl, would be the victim, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, there goes on statutory rape. That's right. So you're telling me that this girl that gets statutorily raped, you would still victim blame her. You would still have
That's not what
her
victim
mom,
blaming is.
Well, I mean, I would sort of agree that, you know, calling her out and saying like, look, you're kind of
no. Victim blaming is saying that it's your fault that the other person did this to you. That's what victim blaming is.
That's what you're doing, though. You're sort of blaming her for flirting with the teacher.
When I literally, yes, that's not
well, she is a victim, but by nature you're blaming her.
Listen, so when we're talking about victim blaming, is blaming the person for the other person's actions. That is what victim blaming is.
Not always.
No, yes, always. That is what victim blaming is. So it's like saying, oh, you got raped because you wore such a short skirt. That is victim blaming.
No.
You're saying
it's not like
you are responsible for
absolute
the other
fault.
Person's...
That's not true. It's not victim blaming is not just giving her the absolute fault. It's also like sharing the fault with the other person too.
Well, this
is why they say like a person that gets raped or whatever, a person that gets robbed, you know, like even if like they have nothing to do with it, it's not their fault. You know, it's still like people calling them out like, you should have known better, like you should have like not done this or that. You're still blaming this person for part of those actions. You're still blaming. That is the act of victim blaming.
Stop saying blaming. You are not blaming them. You are saying that they have responsibility for their own actions. That is not blaming.
And that by nature is a blame. Yes.
No,
you have responsibility. You should not have done this or that. You are in a way blaming this person. You're attributing a level of responsibility for what happened to them. That's literally blaming.
No,
what do you think that happened to the? Wait,
That is not what I'm saying. I'm not.
wait,
I'm
no,
not
but
saying that
when
they
the
have
rapist,
responsibility in what
dude,
happened to
when the
them. That is
rapist
no.
rapes it,
Stop. You keep changing my
oh
words.
my
Stop
god,
talking over me while I'm freaking talking, dude. You keep asking me questions, and as soon as I start talking, you're
fair
like,
enough.
"Yeah, that's victim blaming. You don't even know that you're victim blaming. That's what that is." Like, come on, dude, chill. Okay, the like blaming means that you are saying it is their fault that a thing is happening. Okay,
Or that they
that
share a fault.
or whatever, them having responsibility in their own actions. When you say blame or fault, you are talking about the other person's what happened, right? You are talking about what happened, not what
Yes,
they did, but what happened, right? So
what?
yes, so if we're talking about there's an alleyway and it says rape alley on it, okay? And the girl sees it. She sees it says rape alley on it. There's a ton of dudes standing down the alley, and she walks down that alley anyways. She has responsibility for her own
No,
actions for
no,
choosing to walk down the
not what I'm
alley.
saying. You're
But she
reframing what I
does
said now.
not, hold on, but she does not have responsibility for the other person's actions and what they did to her. So she is not responsible for getting raped, but
You're
she is
reframing what I
responsible.
said.
No, I'm not. I am
Yes,
telling
you
you.
are.
No, I didn't say that you said
We're
anything.
talking
I'm not
about two
talking about what you
individuals.
said. I am talking about the difference between responsibility and victim blaming.
We're talking about two individuals consenting to an action. Now you're talking about someone like a woman randomly walking down the street and getting raped. Like those two are not. They're not analogous. What I'm talking about, it's an interaction with a 15-year-old girl
It
and a
is one to
teacher,
one. It is one to
and they're
one
both
analogous.
the 15-year-old girl seduces the teacher, right? The teacher goes along with it, although he's mostly responsible for it, of course, because he's the adult. He has the ultimate responsibility. But my point is, this is why I asked you: do you think the girl bears the level of responsibility for seducing the teacher?
Yes, they are responsible for seducing the teacher.
Okay,
Yes,
and the
of course.
seduction led to sex, right?
Yes.
She was not raped. She was not forced to remove her clothes, right? She voluntarily did those things, right?
Well, no, I would say at that point, like if the
What?
teacher, yeah.
You're cocking out so hard, dude. Holy
Do you
shit.
really not understand the differences here? This is the
Okay,
the example
I'm
that I
talking
gave
about
you
the
with Rape
contribution that's
Alley
leading to the
is,
sex.
dude, bro,
No,
you're
no, no.
doing it
You're
again.
bringing up
You
like a
just
clear
finished.
cut
Stop
example.
talking. You just finished. Stop talking, and as soon as I start talking, you start rambling off on something else again. Okay?
Because you're inserting some
You are
BS example that's nothing to do with what
misunderstanding.
I'm talking about.
You are misunderstanding, and you just keep rambling because you're
Nope.
not actually listening to what I'm
Disagree
saying.
with you.
The Rape Alley example is a 1-to-1 example of responsibility of what you choose to do, but
Nope.
you are not responsibility for what happens to you.
No, that's
Those are
not what I'm
two
talking
different
about. The
things.
the reason why that's not what I'm talking about is because the woman walking down the alley and just like getting raped, even though it's like a rape alley, she's not deciding to like voluntarily participate in the sexual interaction. When the teacher and the student, that is the completely different. They're both voluntarily doing those things. And the rape at the alley is not rape. I'm talking about statutory rape versus like a literal violent rape.
Yes.
The
Okay.
two are
Yes.
not
And when
synonymous. I'm talking about the one that's statutory.
and when we're talking about a child, we do not think that the child has the ability to consent to those
But that's not
actions.
what I'm asking you. I'm
It
asking you.
is.
I'm going beyond that. We both agree that they do not have the ability to consent. Right? That's what we get that
You
they're
just
minors.
asked me.
My
You
question.
just
Well,
said.
let me ask you.
No.
How
No.
did you
No.
say?
No.
Let me
You
ask you the
just
question.
said. You just said that they're responsible for.
You're
Why
not
wouldn't they
allowing me
be
to rephrase the
responsible?
question.
You just said. Oh, okay. If you want to rephrase it, that's fine.
Okay.
But the like, I just want to point out, changing it from they are responsible for the teacher
Okay.
taking off their clothes is like
Right.
that's where
Did
the
the minor?
difference is
No.
going to be.
Did the minor? Okay. So let's say that they're both. Let's say they're 15-year-old students seduces the teacher, right? And that's fine. They go along with it. Of course, the teacher's the adult. So we all get that part. They both take their clothes off, right? Like the student was not forced to remove her clothes. She did it voluntarily, right? You could agree with that. If that happens, right?
What
They're doing this voluntarily. Like if the student decides to like remove their clothes, they're not being forced. You would agree with that, right? This is like a voluntary action by the student.
I would say they're
Can
being
we go along with that?
coerced.
They're not being coerced. The student's literally the one seducing the teacher. How's that?
Oh, you're saying okay, so you're saying the teacher has not chosen to touch them or do anything with them.
Okay.
And
The teacher sort of responded back with flirting. We could agree on that, right? She responded back with the flirting. She
right.
sort of went back with it.
Okay.
But again, they both, as he sort of responds, they go along with it or whatever. And then eventually it gets to, them removing their clothes, right? There's the minor, there's the student, of course, and the teacher.
Yeah.
She voluntarily removes her clothes.
Yeah.
Is this something that the teacher is now held responsible for? The removal of the student's clothes?
Not for the removal of the student's clothes,
okay.
But
so
the teacher would be responsible if they stay in the presence
okay.
of this at all. Yeah.
Okay. So let's say at that point, if the teacher also follows along with that, right? I don't want to get graphic because, of course, that's like minor shit. I don't want to even. But you get my point, right? So if it sort of gets to the sexual interaction, sexual intercourse, we both agree that at that point, the adult is the one to be held responsible. You would agree with that, right?
Yeah, just by the adult being there, they are like implicitly agreeing to what's happening.
My question to you is, do you hold the student to any account for one, flirting with the teacher, and two, removing their clothes, like just taking off her clothes and just flirting with the teacher? Taking part in the action that led to the sex. Do you blame the teacher at all for this? I mean, the student. Do you give her any level of responsibility?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So this is what I'm saying. You are blaming the student for this. It's not flirting for the action. You're blaming. Yes. And also, if the student wants to sit on a chair and she wants to sit on the student. Fuck. Okay, you get what I'm saying. Okay.
I do, but the student isn't a victim for taking off their clothes.
If she literally fucking sits on top of him and starts riding, I don't want to get graphic here, but you get my point, right? She is the one taking part in that interaction.
I do.
Right. So, at that point, would you hold the student accountable for the sexual interaction at that point, even though she's a minor? Okay. Yes. So you are holding the student accountable for the sexual interaction, right? Which means that you're blaming her for the sexual interaction that took place. For her being statutorily raped, you're holding her accountable. You are victim blaming.
No.
What do you know? You're following along with everything I'm saying, but when I get to the conclusion, you just say no. It doesn't make any sense.
It is. The only other way I can explain it is with Rape Alley again. You don't understand. No,
because that's not analogous at all.
It is one-to-one.
Completely one-sided. It's completely one-sided. The person's being attacked and raped. The two are not the same.
Yes, but it is on the teacher to stop the interaction, right? To stop what is happening. Now, if the student comes, a student comes up to me and they just get on top of me and start doing things,
right?
And I don't immediately stop it. There is an implicit agreement here, and at that point, right. Yes, I am responsible for the coercion that happens there. But the student just getting on top of me and doing that, and I immediately stop it, the student is still responsible for what they did in that instance, of course.
Right, but if you can't find, you're sitting on a chair or whatever, you can't find a way out from there, then what? You'll have to go along with that, mate. What are you going to do? Push this teenager off of you?
Punch them in the face.
Punch? You're going to assault it. Okay.
You're not assaulting them. They're assaulting you.
But that's disputable, right? You would agree. No, after sex or whatever.
That child is sexually assaulting you.
Well, how can you prove that? You can't prove that. We're going down the rabbit hole, who raped who or whatever.
No, hold on. Wait, no. There's nothing. It has nothing to do with proving. This is the hypothetical. We are saying that the student walked over and did this. In this hypothetical, yes, the teacher should punch that student in the face.
But my point is that it's impossible to prove why, first of all, the punching in the face took place. That's impossible to prove, right? You would agree with that. Yeah, that's one. The other one is that the sex or whatever happened, whatever claim you could make, to defend yourself, I'm sure the student's going to make another one, and probably hers is going to be more believable than yours. You would agree, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So my point is, but you're actually going outside of the hypothetical. Let's say that you both actually do have sex, but there's nothing that you did that led to her being coerced into taking off her clothes and having sex with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are saying that there's a level of responsibility that the student holds, even though she's underage, for having sex with you. You would agree with that, right?
For having sex. No.
Sure. Removing her clothes, seducing you into doing all those things. Yeah, removing
Yeah,
her
sure.
clothes and
Like, yes,
having them
yes.
having.
Up until having sex, yes, I would say that they hold a level of
What do you
responsibility.
think sex is? If she just like hops on top of you and starts fucking riding you, like, what's your what then?
Well, are
What are you
you
talking
already
about?
naked?
Well, yeah. If you let's say if
So
you
you're
follow along
naked
with
in
that,
front of the, yes, again, that is the part where it no longer, that's the part where it becomes coercive. This is the thing. It's like, as soon as you start going along with it, yes, I would say it is now coercive because you are an authority figure in this child's life. If you are implicitly allowing this to happen whatsoever, then yes, you are being coercive.
okay, but would you hold the student to any account for any of the interaction that took place?
Yes, the same thing.
What
Literally
what
the
would you
same
hold her
thing.
account for?
Up until the teacher is uh
Up
it
until, but what's up until? Like, just tell me what it is.
the same thing up until the teacher is doing anything to imply that this is an okay interaction whatsoever.
You will hold her to account for seducing the teacher, right?
Yes.
Do you think that a student can get in trouble for doing those things?
Yes, 100%.
There's nothing against the law that says that you can't. That's in the law that says you cannot seduce your teacher if you're a minor. Did you know that?
Well, if it's unwanted, this is sexual harassment.
How do you prove that's unwanted?
What do you mean proof?
Right.
Like, why do you keep saying that? You keep changing it
You say
from
if it's
like, no, no, no,
unwanted. I
no.
mean,
Hold it.
these
Yes,
are things that are like impossible to prove.
it doesn't matter. These are hypotheticals. We don't need freaking proof. We're not talking about real
Yes,
people.
you
We're talking
do.
about a hypo. No,
But
you are asking.
for a
Stop asking
hypothetical to
me about
work,
proof. I don't care about proof. I don't care about the law. I don't care about any of these things. We are talking about what is moral here. Stop
I
changing the
think the problem
subject.
that you're finding yourself is that you're sort of like in this
I
sort of
don't
like
have a
flip
problem.
flop here.
No, there's
You're
no
in this
flip
like flip
flop.
flop here where you want to admit that the student holds a level of account, but I think like you're so
There is no
like
flip flop.
the
I am being
optics of it is
insanely
so
consistent.
yeah.
I am
This is
being
like
perfectly consistent.
I don't think you are.
I am
Because you literally just like
100% being
admitted
consistent.
earlier that yeah, the students held to account for like doing the things you did or whatever. But then you
Yes.
sort of backpedal and say, yeah, well, not for the sex, because of course, it's like of course,
Do
student
you
like
agree
a
that
minor is still capable of having sex. Like you don't have to participate in sex. You could just like literally hop on top of you or whatever and just like do things or
if you're
give you
already naked, yes. But if
they
you're
can
already naked, I would say that's already
okay.
coercive.
Let's say if you find yourself cornered, they remove your clothes, they remove your pants or whatever, she's still like blowing you or whatever. This is
Yes,
like a
if the
hypothetical.
student rapes you, then yes, the student is responsible for their actions. Yes.
But again, if this happens and you go along with it,
If you go
like
along with
what were
it,
you
now it's
supposed to
not
do?
rape.
Like these stuff. Okay, the distinctions there are impossible to make. You're just like making shit up. Like those things are just like easy to go with. That's not how that works.
I don't know what you're
Like what
talking
do you mean
about.
if you go along with it? Like how would you make the distinction whether or not you went along with it or like you didn't? What are you just like gonna fucking the person's like holding onto your dick and you're just like gonna run away? Like
I'm not.
what are you
What do you
talking
mean?
about?
I'm not. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about a student actually like seducing you, like having
Yes,
sex
if
with
they
you,
yes, if they
and
had sex
you're
with you without your consent, without you wanting to have sex, yes, this is rape. If they did it with your consent, now this is coercive on the student, and now it is
okay.
your
Let's
now it is.
let's even go back to what I was mentioning earlier with you, because I'm just like wanted to see like any
I'm
like
actually
hot. I just
terrified if
want
you disagree with any of this. Like this is
no no no.
actually kind of
Do you remember
scary
why
if
I
you
brought this up
disagree with a
earlier?
word
Because
that I've said.
I just wanted to say like what hot takes would you go along with? This is like why I brought this up. You probably forgot already, but I just like wanted to
No,
like
I
what
remember
hot
this,
takes
but I
you.
have no
Yeah,
idea how you think that I'm being inconsistent. You should agree with 100% of what I've said here. There's no possible way that you
I
can
would agree
disagree with
with
any of
you,
this.
but you're sort of flip flopping at the same time. Like you're sort
I'm
of
not
agreeing with
flip
certain
flopping.
things, but it's like you're sort of like you're assuming that like the whole consent non-consent thing is like it's that easy to like to dissect, and I just don't
No, I'm
agree with it.
not. I'm not. We're giving hypotheticals. We are already saying who is or is not consenting. We can tell you right here, right now, who is or is not consenting. It is packed into the hypothetical.
Well, let's just sort of switch the roles. Let's say that there's like the student in this case is a male, right? And it's like a female teacher. I mean, we sort of see that happening a lot, right? Where you have like a teenage boy, whatever, seducing the teacher. She sort of, I don't know, for whatever reason, she goes along with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like what then? He seduces her to, do things. She sort of goes along with it. I mean, usually she'll probably go with that. I didn't want to resist, or I didn't want to, do something that would get this person to react violently towards me, right? What would then be your and she did sort of go along with it. But she went along with it because of that fear that the students would probably retaliate or whatnot, right? In that case, what would be your response?
For what exactly?
Is this something that would you hold the teacher at that point to account if she were to like give you that story? Like I felt cornered. I didn't know what, I didn't want to like get upset or whatever, hurt me or whatnot.
Yeah.
You would still hold her to account for the sexual interaction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless like there's actually like real evidence or like a real reason for her to have this fear.
What do you mean have this fear? Do you know like a 15-year-old boy can literally like beat up an adult woman? What are you talking
Literally
about?
all men can beat up almost all women, but that doesn't mean that anytime a man hits on a woman, they just have to go along with it because they're afraid they're going to get
Well,
raped.
a lot
That
of
is
things. I
insane.
mean, we could sort of say that generally women are like pretty agreeable. There's some that are like more agreeable than they should be. They sort of go along with the interaction. There's sort of like some flirting, sweet talk, whatever taking place. Before you realize the woman is found in a situation where she feels cornered. She may have gone along with more than she should have, and things happen. But the fact of the matter is that she ended up in that position where she didn't have any other option. What was she going to do? Is she going to like say no? This person's like really going deep for it, so it's like what's she felt afraid. If she to
Yeah,
say
again,
no
she would
because
have to like it would
reaction
have to
like.
be like an actual reasonable degree that like it would make sense for her to be afraid. There would have to be like
Like to
actual.
what degree would you have to prove this? I don't understand.
I don't think I can draw like an actual line there. Like you would have to be afraid that you weren't actually capable of saying no, or that there's because even like I don't even know that there's a way for that to be the case without it like some sort of explicit threat.
Yeah, so it's like
If you
setting up a
just
standard is like impossible to meet. To me, it seems like that's.
yeah, well, right, you would have to have like almost like an explicit threat in order for that to be the case. Outside of that, like there's few cases that that might be the case where like I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to it there's like
But
the
the
only
problem
things.
is that would be like, even if this was a lie, and like she actually went along with it, she did like this and whatever, like she went along with it. I'm sure she's gonna like try to come up. I'm not like I'm not saying that this is always true, but I'm sure she's probably gonna try to come up with something to save her career. Like yeah, I'm sure she's gonna try to pull something, up her sleeve, or whatever. The problem is that that's indisputable. Like you cannot. There's very little you can say. How is she supposed to prove that she was afraid of what could have happened? Like
You can never prove these
right.
things.
So like that's what I'm asking. Like, what are you talking about? Then? Like how would she not be
I don't
believed?
know. You keep changing the story.
I'm
Like,
not
are we
changing anything.
talking?
I'm just
You
saying that
are
just like
because
you're
the
asking for
question,
this evidence for her
dude.
to prove
Oh
that's
my
impossible to meet.
goodness! Literally every freaking time, bro.
What?
Chill. Every
Okay.
time I start to respond, you
Sorry.
start
Sorry.
talking
Sorry.
over me. You're asking me a hypothetical question
Mm-hmm.
where we're talking about like who's responsible for what, and then you start saying things about like, well, you can't even prove it. If we're talking about legality and how we would write up laws for these things, this is very, very different than who we would hold responsible for what and who is morally culpable for which action. Like these are all very different questions.
Okay. So let's say let's go for starters. She, of course, it's a statutory rape because that's she had sex with a minor, an underage student.
Mm-hmm.
She's now has two problems. One's legal and the other one's probably professional. Let's deal with the professional one. Okay. She finds herself, her explanation is she found herself to be cornered. She could not say no because, I'm afraid of this or that or whatever. Like, whatever.
Yeah, again, that's almost never good enough. Like, there would have to be, like, signs of struggling or some sort of weapon or, showing that, like, he held her down and she's, like, trying to get away. Like, there would have to be all sorts of other things in order for that to be the case. But for her to just go along with it because he's bigger and she thinks he might hurt her, like, that's just not good enough.
What the fuck are you talking? Where is that ever required for, like, you to prove your case at all? Like, struggle, like, risk getting your fucking self beat up or something in order to prove your case? That you try to prevent this from happening?
Yes, what are you talking about? You have to try to prevent.
Where does it say this?
So I have never explicitly asked a girl if I could have sex with her, or if I could touch her, or if I could kiss her, or anything.
Okay.
She just goes along with it, and that's how I know that she's consenting to all the things.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, how.
Hold on. If this person who is not actually saying no, they're not actually fighting back, they're not actually pushing them off, then no, there's no way that I would believe that they were actually trying to stop this from happening or that they didn't want it to happen.
But even if she gently tried to fight back, it's like once you go past the point, like, that's impossible to prove. Like, what is she supposed? Yeah, I did try to, maybe push back, but it's a 15-year-old student. He's way stronger than I am, or whatever.
Yeah, it's gently fighting back is probably not a good idea.
She wants to punch him. What the fuck?
Yes.
Dude, oh god, dude, no.
No, sorry. Just get raped. You're right. No, just get raped. No, okay. Just get raped. No, you're right. Just get raped.
That clear
Why?
Cut,
don't hurt them. You don't want to hurt the person. Just get raped.
It's
instead.
Not also a black and white issue. That's not what I'm talking about. It's not also like a black and white issue. There's like a mixture of emotions there, and like sort of maybe like a yes and no. It's like a gray area there where she kind of wants to, but she knows it's wrong. So she wants to, maybe, this shouldn't happen. Although she's sort of feeling it at the same time. But it's not like this sort of black and white of, it's like, either I'm getting fucking raped or I'm just like fighting.
No, and I'm saying
that's not how these things work.
It is how it works. If she does not actually say no and does not actually fight back, I do not believe that she actually wanted it to stop.
If she's civilly trying to prevent the situation or like de-escalate the situation,
she should not civilly try to stop it. Now, if civilly she just said the word stop, no, I don't want to do this, and then didn't punch him in the face, sure. Like, that would probably be one thing. But instead, she's just going along with it, but she's terrified the entire time. Yeah, I don't think there's, like, that.
Okay, the reason why I mentioned that these things are like a black and white kind of issue is because there's never going to be like a clear, like yes or no, just stop. Or like these things tend to be a little more complicated than that, right? The teacher could actually have feelings for the guy. She could actually just, be into this person. She could actually like try to like build a good relationship, with him as a student or whatever. She may feel like if she were to like be that, bold about it, that she could alienate this person. She could, make an enemy out of him. I don't know. So whatever could happen, right?
Yeah.
So people, they're that calculated. Like they may try to like find a different way to de-escalate the situation. It's not just like a clear no, like fucking punch in the face and stop and just like fucking run away. That's not how these things like turn out.
I agree that that's a possibility, that somebody wouldn't want to like alienate the person, but in that case, they are complicit. Either way, they are still complicit. They cannot statutorily rape somebody because they didn't want to be mean.
But in that case, the student is the one sort of starting the interaction. He's the one sort of instigating. He's the one getting the act going, not her. She's sort of complying because, in fear of actually feeling like, she could get hurt if you were to not go along with it.
I understand.
This happens to a lot of women, actually, believe it or not.
And I'm saying as soon as she starts to comply without any pushback, she is complicit.
Well, she could be offering pushback, but the minute that the pushback is sort of ignored and, like he's sort of like proving that he's willing to go along with it or, continuing, he's persistent and whatever. At that point, that kind of pushback, it's not as useful as you think, right? she sort of has to go along with it. If she's afraid, I mean, what do you want her to do?
Fight back. Like, literally fight.
But she knows this is like a stronger person than she is. She could like be risking her safety or life possibly if she were to like fight and just like, so it's these things are not that clear cut, and like you seem to
They're
just
not
like
that
have
clear
this.
cut, but most of the time, if a woman fights back, the guys are less likely to want to deal with somebody punching them, clawing at their eyes, kicking them in the balls. Like, they're less likely to want to keep going
But wait,
through
you
that.
keep going back to this like clear cut situation. That's not. I already told you. It's more like a gray area thing. It's like she kind of likes him, but she doesn't want to cross that line because they're students or whatever.
There are gray areas, and I'm saying that without these things, they're going to be complicit.
Okay, but you understand what I'm saying here, that you keep sort of pushing it back to this black and white area, and I'm just like I'm keep bringing it back to this gray area where there's mixed feelings going on.
Yes, and I'm saying mixed feelings makes them complicit.
What? Okay, we'll just have to agree to disagree on that one.
Their mixed feelings do not excuse statutory rape.
She could still have mixed feelings for the student, but at the same time, like not want to have sex with them.
Sure.
So
they could totally not want to have sex with them, 100% not want to have sex with them, and completely go along with it, and they'd be 100% complicit.
But if they don't put themselves in like a very dangerous situation of like fighting back against a person that's probably twice as strong as she is, then she's like not doing enough to like, dude.
Yes, they need to do it. I don't know what else to tell you. That's just like get raped instead. That is such a no. It is not. Just saying just get raped instead is a much worse prescription here than saying fight, punch them, kick them, claw at them, scratch them. Like, all of those things are a much better prescription than just get raped.
So wait, if we were to move that scenario to something else, let's say like at a party or something, and the woman behaves the same way, let's say it's not a teacher, but they're like two individuals, and the woman's like sort of subtly pushing back, but she doesn't because she's afraid he's probably stronger. You would still say that it's like it was a consensual sexual interaction?
No, but again, they would be saying the words no. They would be saying stop. They would be saying these things, right?
No, that's not always how that works.
Well, then they're complicit.
Dude, oh God, no. Just stop. Okay. A lot of your feminist fans are not going to agree with you on that one.
I don't care. Like, I've talked about this many times. This is literally the entire discourse that you and I talked to Katie about. This is where it started, was with the what was it called? The stealthing issue, where the girl did not actually say no when the guy stood up to take his condom off and then got back on top of her and started having sex again.
Tom?
She didn't actually say the words no. And then she said, yeah, I was terrified. I was scared. He's bigger than me. He could have hurt me if I said no. Maybe he punches me. And we're saying, yeah, do it anyways.
It's not like this, just like clear black and white, no, yes, stop. Just like, people tend to be a little more complicated than that. There tends to be more sort of subtle signs or, written signals.
We can arrest them in a complicated way then. How about that?
We can what?
We can arrest them in a very complicated way. How about that?
No, but we're talking about like past the point of sex. Like, would that be considered rape or not? Like, how would you? Because then if you're agreeing with me at this point, if you wouldn't cross that line and grant to me that, yeah, that is still considered to be an offense, then we have to take it back to the teacher versus student.
Wait, I don't know what we're talking about now.
Well, you did agree that it would still be considered rape, even if she were to go along with it, if she were to not push back in the way that you want her to like draw that clear line and say that, yeah, no, this is not happening.
No, I did not. When do you think I did that?
Oh, okay.
When do you think that happened?
Okay, so when I pointed out that it's a lot more complicated to like, make decisions on these things, like, sometimes
I said we can arrest them in a complicated way then.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Like, I don't care that it's complicated. They're going to get arrested.
I don't understand that answer. What do you mean? It's complicated. How would they get arrested? How would they be able to prove their case? That this is something that, okay, I think we should probably just drop this conversation. This is not going anywhere.
I feel like everything I'm saying is like
No, you're
obvious,
copying out a
and
lot.
I'm blown away that you disagree with a word of what I'm saying. I am actually like, I think that this is nuts. I can't
I
tell if
don't
you're
think that
trolling.
boundaries are able to be set up that, like, people are not able to set their boundaries as clearly as you want them to.
I'm
Uh,
not. It's whether or not they have the boundaries; those can be gray areas. But how they protect those boundaries is not much of a gray area. They're like, you say no, you fight back, you make it clear that you don't want this to happen. Yeah, like that
what
is
if that's
that.
not part of their personality? They want that's not part
Then
of
they're
who they
going to
are.
jail.
Then who's going to jail?
If it's a teacher, then they are going to jail.
So either you're like a fucking ferocious person, or like a fucking just be that kind of person who just say no, whatever, like go outside of your comfort zone, or just go to jail.
Go outside your comfort zone or get raped. Which one do you think's more uncomfortable? Which one?
Well, rape it's outside of the if you're talking about like the student
Huh.
versus teacher, that's sort of outside of the options there, because one is the teacher is not wanting to have sex with the student, but it would if it also were to go if she also were to go along with it, it would actually not be considered rape, in my opinion.
Well,
It would be
right.
statutory
That's
rape in the
exactly what
case of
I'm
the
saying.
student.
That's exactly what I'm saying is that if they go along with it, this is they are like they are complicit and now they are raping the child.
No, you said
Whereas
it was
if
complicit because the teacher would then be getting in trouble.
yeah,
But the
that's what
point is that for
statutory
her,
rape
in her
is.
defense, how would she be able to defend herself if she actually did not want to go along with it, but she did not have a way to push back in the way that you would want her to, basically? How would she?
I have yet to hear of an example where I think that that's actually the case.
Uh, I well, me not being able to come up with one, I don't think it's like a valid argument. Or it's like,
It is
what do
a
you mean, like
valid
come up with like a
argument.
real
So
life example, or like me just coming up
yes,
with one?
the entire all of your examples are like, oh, but what if that's not part of their personality? What if they have a relationship with them and they don't want to hurt the relationship? Like those things, I don't. Those are the worst arguments ever. I'm blown away that you think that that
But
would
it's still
ever change
realistic.
my mind. On they are realistic, and those people should go to prison. They are very realistic, and those people should go to a very realistic prison, and they do, and they
What,
should.
I don't. Oh God. Okay, you're not sort of going along with what I'm saying. What are you talking about going to realistic prison? Like, what are you talking about?
I'm
A
saying that
teacher
you are.
that wait, well, okay, well, that seems like you're playing around right now. A teacher that does not push back hard enough against her student because she does not have that kind of, this is not like the way that she interacts. This is not the way, she maybe have like more subtle ways of pushing back or whatever, more like gentle ways of behaving or, fighting back. A person that does this, you're saying that she should go to jail because she's not able to prove her case that she didn't push hard enough?
You keep saying prove her case. Like we're talking about whether or not
Prove
they
that she did
actually
not
did these
statutorily
things.
rape the student.
Whether or not they actually did these things. So we're talking about whether or not they should go to jail. Whether or not they can prove the case. I don't know. That's a
The
completely
sexual
different question.
act took place. How does a teacher prove that she did not statutorily rape the student, that she did not want this to happen, but it actually ended up happening
I
anyways?
don't
Because
know. It's hard to tell without the whole entire scenario. What was where? Who did what?
it was said,
Exactly.
okay,
Each and every
let's
move.
just paint this
What
classroom, the after school, whatever. The student
again?
says
It
for some
doesn't
extra
matter. The
help.
point is that like we have laws and we set up the laws in a certain way and we say what it is that we're looking for and what we would hope for in these scenarios, and that if they do not meet these thresholds, then they're going to jail.
What thresholds do you want her to meet?
That she would make it clear that she is not okay with the scenario, that she wants them to stop, that she would actually do things to make sure that the other person is fully
Okay,
aware that they are
what if
not
her
going
ways,
along with the scenario.
if her ways of making that clear are not good enough for your own standards? Let's say like you're the director or like the principal or whatever, like you're the administrator of the school. How would she make that clear to you if your standards are that you have to like clearly and boldly say, no, this is not happening. Get the fuck away from you. Punch him in the face, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If those are your standards for her to make that clear and she does not have that, she just doesn't have that in her to do those things.
Yeah.
How would you make it clear? How would she be able to prove her case to you that she did not rape this person? She just could not push back as hard as you wanted her to.
you keep saying that, and I keep
Can
telling
you just answer the
you,
question?
yes, and I've answered it a million
Okay,
times.
what's the answer?
There isn't one. They should go to
Okay,
prison.
who should go to prison?
The teacher.
So you should just like send her to prison, whatever. It just doesn't matter. Okay,
I'm
there's like
blown away that you
she's not
disagree
meeting
with this, bro.
she's not meeting your standards for like proving herself that she like pushed hard enough. Therefore, just
Yes.
whatever. Go to fuck. No, I just
Yes.
this is what I disagree with you on.
This is insane, bro. This is actually insane. I can't tell if you're trolling me or not. This
I
is
am not
nuts.
trolling you because I think you're expecting something from people that some people just may not have in them. Some people
And they
have
should go to
different ways
prison
of pushing
then.
back. If you don't have certain personalities, like different ways of being, you can just like go to
You
prison.
keep saying this. These are, yes, 100% yes.
Okay,
I'm blown away that you
that's not
think that that's a
reasonable at
good
all.
enough reason for statutory rape. It's not in his personality, so the statutorily rape the person.
If
This
you're
is such a
if you are
horrible
against
reason,
a
bro.
student who's like way stronger than you are in a classroom alone by yourself, the student like trying to make moves on you and trying to have sex with you or whatever, and your ways of pushing back are very subtle and very sensitive or whatever, and you just don't have
They
that in you
shouldn't
to
be
fucking
subtle and sensitive.
escape
I keep
her.
telling you this. The same thing. They should not be
But
subtle
what
and
if that's just
sensitive.
the way that she is? This is like
Then she
women
should
are
go to
sensitive.
prison. She should
Okay.
go to prison.
Okay.
I'm going to keep
Fair
saying
enough.
the same thing. She should go to prison.
I think your chat's kind of disagreeing with you on that. Okay.
I am. Oh my goodness, dude. Oh my goodness. What?
All
Chat,
right.
can you please, one's in chat if you agree with me.
Bro, I'm
Please,
just kidding with
this
you.
is-
Why don't you ask your chat like who they agree with?
because it's insane. There's no way that they disagree with this. I
I
they
don't think
keep
a
saying that
woman,
you're
a
trolling.
female teacher who's like going against like a 15 or 16 or 17-year-old student is going to be able to push back the way that you want her to. That's like an impossible standard to meet. I'm sorry.
Okay, you're just wrong, and they should go to prison if they can. Like 100%, they should be in prison for the rest of their lives. These people are predators and creeps, and they should not be around anymore. This is insane that you think that that's anything different than that. It is actually mind blowing.
I don't know.
You're saying just rape the
person
person because you have a personality difference. That is nuts, dude.
I think the way that you should go about this is that just like try to investigate things, question the student, the teacher, and so forth, and just try to figure things out. Not just like, okay, the teacher's just automatically guilty for those things when maybe she did try to push back, but she just couldn't. Going against a stronger person, so
yes, again, if they couldn't, they should go to prison.
Teacher, yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I think that's sort of my take as far as all that I had.
This is wild, bro. This is actually wild.
Hey, did you like, bro? It's like almost 5 a.m. where I am. Hey, I bring up some points. You may not agree with them, but it's some fair points to bring up. This is good conversations to have. I think a lot of people actually disagree with you. I mean, there's some feminists there that would actually disagree with you on that. So it's good to. I'm actually like mad at the debate. Like, I'm not this person who's like does streams or what. Like, I think I should. I don't know if that's like
yeah, maybe.
I think that I should do. Like, I should get better at like public speaking because I'm kind of shit at it. It's funny too because like I have you on my screen, like I have you muted, but like I'm actually looking at you as you speak and move. I don't know if this is weird, but I'm not like actually looking at you.
I assume everybody does that.
Oh, is that normal? Okay, because like I feel like if I just like stare at you like in your like icon or whatever in your Discord profile, it's like it just feels different because like I know your chat's talking shit about me or whatever. It's like I want to be able to like look at it and read, so it's like okay.
That's what everybody does.
Okay, if that's normal then. Cool.
Because like normally the only other option is that we're both on cam and we're looking at the Discord talking to each other like that. Otherwise, the other person's going to be looking at chat the whole time.
Okay, fair enough. I should probably do more of this. You're like the only person who's like added me to their. I think I tried to talk to Stardust or something about this before, and she fucking blocked me, bro. What's her problem? I was like, I wanted to give my take on like the Ali and stuff. And it's like I was like talking to her, like I wanted to ask her some questions about like what she thought. He's like fucking blocked me. It's like if I'm not like
most streamers are not like taking calls all day like I am. They don't want to debate. They don't want to have like people challenging them all day. They just want to talk on stream. So like the only other person I know that does this is Destiny. That's it. Or I guess Chud does as well. Like he'll bring people in a bunch too. But yeah, most people don't do this.
Yeah, I think she's like, it's like I wasn't a streamer or something. So it's just like, yeah, that's fair enough.
Well, no, even that, like I think twice, three times now, I've just jumped in Stardust chat just to stay and listen, and I'll just say hey, and all of a sudden the chat starts spamming like bring Tom in, and she's like, guys, like I'm in the middle of talking. Why do you keep saying bring Tom in? Like what the hell? Like again, like she's not sitting around talking and debating people all
Yeah,
day.
that's fair.
I
Yeah.
am so.
Oh yeah, I should probably do this more often. I'll have to like ask people questions and stuff, like get involved in this like online sphere of like having conversations. I feel like I like having conversations with like, you know, interacting with different ideas, going back and forth and stuff. I feel like that's something that I kind of like to do. So
There's one thing that you said a while ago that was just so bad
yeah, what's
that
up?
it has stuck with me
Yeah, go ahead.
ever since. And it seems similar to this in the way that there's like an obvious difference there and you just don't see it.
What's
It's
the difference?
so there's you were saying one time like, would you date a girl with an OnlyFans? And I was like, no, probably not. And you're like, wait, but doesn't that go against liberal values to like let women do whatever they want? I was like,
I think I was just trolling you at that point. Yeah, I was like trolling you. I was like
okay,
I was like on this like politically provoked panel, or whatever.
yes,
I get out of there sometimes. Yeah, I think I
okay,
asked you that. It's like because you did say like that you wouldn't date like a
correct,
girl with an OnlyFans. It's kind of a good
yeah,
question.
okay.
Like why now? Like what's like a woman
Well, I
that like
wanted to
likes.
make sure because you said it like three times. You're like, yeah, but that's like obviously against liberal values, right? Like letting people do whatever they want. That's very much against liberal values. And I was like, no, it's not. I can still have preferences
No,
with
that was
who
just
I
trolling. That was
want
just
to
me
date.
trolling you.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, but to be fair, I mean, would you discriminate a woman like if she were to have an OnlyFans, if she was like do sex work, would you discriminate against her for like doing those things? Like if you were to like have the option to date her and then you get to find out like she has an only she had an OnlyFans,
Yeah,
like would
I
you
would. Yeah,
you would probably break up with her?
yeah.
Damn, bro. Whoa, it's kind of
Yeah,
messed up.
there
I
are
don't know.
things that like I would rather be like intimate for me and my partner. Like there are things that I think that should just be between us. And if it's not and it's for everybody else too, then like it's not as intimate anymore. It's literally not intimate. It's
Well,
public
what if she
now.
like
And
turned her
so
life around? You know, later on she just like, you know, changed a lot of
if
things
she
for her. You know,
used to do an OnlyFans, then yeah, I don't think like I don't think I would care all that much if she used to do it. But if she's
so wait,
currently
what's
doing
the
it,
difference then?
well, that's like saying like, well, what if they've had sex with other people in the past? Like those people now saw those intimate things as well. So why would you date a girl who's had sex with anybody else but you, right?
Well, no, that's not my point. My point is that OnlyFans is not exactly actual sex. It's just like posting pictures for whatever
Right,
and
and I'm
getting
saying that the
payments.
intimate parts is like seeing them naked, seeing them in this sexual way, like being able to interact with them in that way. Like, yeah, that is the intimate part. That is the thing that is just meant for me and who I'm with. And if other people have access to that part of them, then it's no longer intimate.
But let's say that if she used to do OnlyFans, but then her like pictures are all, you know, leaked online or whatever, that you can like easily Google them or whatever. It's like I don't know
Yeah,
who
it's
can
more
ever have
about
like
what they're doing in the moment. Like again, like this would be similar to like I'm with
uh
a girl who like who sent nudes to her boyfriends, but then they broke up and those boyfriends still have those nudes. Like, yeah, that happens. That is it is what it is. Like there's that but while she's with
so
me,
the current act is what sort of matters with you. If she's while
yes,
she's with you and posting pictures and selling,
of course, yeah.
sort of okay. I guess that's kind of a weird standard to have. Okay, but that's I don't know. Because to me, like if I were to have a problem with OnlyFans, it's like the fact that they have like their nudes out there, as opposed to her like currently doing it. It's like what would that matter? Like if she's still doing it now versus like if she used to do it, her pictures are still out there. What if
Yeah,
she's like
it's like cheating. Like it's like if you have rules around your relationship that these are only supposed to exist between the two of you.
right? But what if she's like posting those still like the same stuff that are leaked out there, and she's still like posting the stuff up, and you know on OnlyFans, but she's like getting an income from it.
Yeah, I would still consider it the same thing. Like, because that's how other people are going to look at it as well, right? They're going to look at it as, I still get to see your girlfriend naked, right?
Right, but they still would if she wasn't still doing OnlyFans, because there would still be leaks out there to see
Yes,
those
but
things.
that girl that they're looking at isn't actually my girlfriend. So if like, a lot of it is, it's about like, there isn't much of a difference between perception and reality in this case, right? So
Right.
if people say, a girl, you and her are sexting, and you're like, hey, send me some nudes, and she sends you nudes, but they're nudes from like 2 weeks ago or a couple months ago, or they're nudes that she took for another guy, and she just happens to be sending them to you. But to you, when she sends them to you,
Right.
like the idea is that she's giving them to you.
So
She just took
how
this for
recent the
you.
nudes are is what matters.
No, I'm saying it doesn't matter, because to you, she just took these pictures to send them to you just now. Like, that was the purpose in that picture that she just sent to
Right.
you.
So
And
how
so
recent the nudes
perception,
are.
no, I'm saying the perception is reality. The perception that she just took these nudes and sent them to you, that is your reality. The
What if she
reality
was
is,
posting like old nudes that were leaked on the internet or whatever, but she still had an OnlyFans? But they're not like nukes. They're like things that she's currently taking. They're leaked
yeah, it's
on
the
the
same
internet or
thing.
whatever. But she's just like, posting them. She's like reposting old stuff. Basically,
Yeah, it's the same thing.
it's just the perception that she's just taking
That she's
photos
still posting nudes. Yeah.
of herself. And okay, I guess that's
Yeah.
okay. That's I don't know, that's kind of an interesting way to go about it. But okay. Yeah, well, that's sort of all I have for now. Do
All
you
right, man.
interact with a lot of right wingers? This is my last point.
Yeah.
Who do you like happen to talk to? And like, because like I've been watching a lot of these sort of drama streams and stuff. Do you think that do you think Milo is like a racist or something?
I
You
have
think
no
Milo's
idea.
racist?
I have no idea.
Because I heard he's Jewish too, so that sort of the anti-Semitism sort of goes out of the window there. Do you
Yeah, I
think
have no
Jews can
idea.
still be anti-Semites?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, but do you think Milo is one?
I have no idea.
What
I
about
don't know
Nick?
enough
What
about
about
him.
Nick Fuentes? Do you think he's an anti-Semite?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. How if you were so what are your standards to like decide whether or not a person's like anti-Semitic?
Um, if they do things that would be harmful to Jewish people, like pushing like negative stereotypes about them, or negative tropes, or
Like what?
conspiracy theories, like saying that the Holocaust never happened, saying that they are in a Jewish cabal running the world, saying that they're all working together to control media, to
I think Milo has
um,
admitted those things.
say that again.
Milo, I think he's talked about how Jews are, like control or a large portion of the media. I think Milo's
Yeah, if
talked
he's
about this.
saying those things, then yeah, sure.
Wait, so if those things were to be true, then would they still be anti-Semitic? I mean, what makes it
Yeah, of
anti-Semitic? The
course.
fact that they're not true, or the fact that they're just saying it?
The fact that they're untrue things that are going to have like a negative outcome for Jewish people.
Okay,
So
so
like,
what bothers is that they're pushing lies about Jewish people that are just that could probably scapegoat them, or it's like
yeah, so
just
like, black people actually do commit a disproportionate amount of crime, right?
whoa, okay,
But
let's
if you actually start walking around just saying black people commit a disproportionate amount of crime, that even though that's true, there's like this negative outcome from you continuously pushing this, like there's nothing else behind it, right? If all you're saying over and over and over is black people commit crime at a disproportionate rate, or black people commit 50% of all violent crimes, and that's all you're saying, and there's nothing else after that,
I don't think
then
people
yeah,
ever
that's
just do
obviously
these
going to
things
be
just like
negative.
that. I don't people just like talk about black crime just like that. It's just like people. You don't have like people just going out there with the fucking sign on. It's like
They
slogan and saying that
100%
just
do.
black people commit a lot of crimes. It's like what is
They definitely do. So they'll
okay? I
post
don't
it on Twitter, they'll post it on Facebook, they'll put it in
right,
memes,
but
they'll
there's
post it in
context
my
to those things, right?
chats.
People
No,
aren't just
there's
like
not. No, they literally just. Do you know what 1350 is?
yeah, that's like the stat for That's like the percentage of
Yes, but
African
it's
American.
called 1350 because we all see them just saying 1350 all over the place. That's all they say. Just 1350. That's
But
why it's a
oh,
saying.
okay, it's like the crime rate, yeah. But
Yes.
if this were to be in response to, let's say, a person's like a video, because I see a lot of videos and stuff like on Twitter, let's say, and like in response to like a video of let's say a black person committing a crime or something, or like robbing a bank or like whatever crime, right? If a person were to respond to that, like just 1350 right under it, would you consider this to be racist?
Yes.
So in that case, it would not just be because they're posting it in response to something. It's just the fact that they're posting it. Because you did add earlier that it had to include, just like
Some sort
in
of
the
useful
absence of
context to it.
context
Yeah.
that they would just post it out there. But in this case, it does have context. It's
Well,
sort of
no, it
pointing out
doesn't.
that
The context, though, is still racist. So, like, most of racism is taking, like, some sort of generality and applying it to an individual. So, black people commit a disproportionate amount of crime. Now, I see a black person and I say, oh, like, you're more likely to commit.
no, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking
Okay.
about if there's a video. Let's say this is like a hypothetical video on
Wait, but
Twitter
yes, the video is an individual. It
of
has
a
nothing to
crime.
do with the stat.
Well, the individual is committing a crime, so by
Right.
sort of definition, they would be part of that stat. Maybe in
They
the
are
future or
part,
not.
yes, they are part of the stat, but what value, what is getting across with you posting that in there? What is the
Well,
message with that?
I don't know. What's the message that like what are they trying to say that this is like a normal thing, I guess?
No, that black people are bad, that black people are criminals, that black people do this. Like that's what
Well, it
they're
seems like that's I don't know. That sounds like a straw man, but I feel like that could just
like,
be they could just want to say that. Well, that seems to be like a very normal
they
act.
could.
It's like it seems pretty normal to me. I mean, look at this. They commit 50%. They're only what's 14. Is it 13% of the population? They commit 50% of the crimes. So yeah, that seems pretty normal to me. If a person were to comment this under like one of those videos of like a black person committing a crime, you still be considering that racist, right?
Nah, not necessarily. Like them saying
Okay.
like black, because yeah, that obviously is like generally normal. This is something that like
Okay.
people who talk about systemic racism would say something like that, right? Like
Uh,
that they're because they're black, like they're more likely to commit crimes now because of the environment that they live in and because of all the issues with systems. Like yeah, they could say the same thing. So not necessarily, no.
but like, in what way would you have? Because like, I'm still like looking for this racist instance that you're bringing up, but like, I don't see that playing out. Like the stuff that I've seen, it's like it's never like that. It's just like a random black person who's just like commenting, "Oh,
It's
1350, bro."
almost always like that. If I
I've
if I
never
hear people
seen
talking
anything
about
like this.
1350, it like almost every time I'm talking to Groypers, they bring up 1350. Like
But is
it
this like
is
in reference to something, in response to something? Like, is it when you're talking about like black crime or like
no,
what
yeah, no,
exactly is it?
not black
In what
crime.
context?
A black person committing a crime. A black person committing a crime is not
Mhm.
black crime. It is a black person committing a crime. But then they say 1350. What do you think they're trying to get across there?
Well, I mean, I think that either if it's like white crime, Hispanic, or whatever. I think a Hispanic person committing, I feel like a Hispanic person committing a crime that would sort of fall inside of the pool of Hispanic crime. This is like the way that I see it. I don't know if
Are you
black
Hispanic?
crime. I am actually Hispanic.
I as far as I
I'm actually
know,
mixed. I'm Hispanic, and well, I wouldn't say white Ukrainian, but that's like it does count as white, but I don't know. I don't look that white. Whatever, but yeah, no. So it wouldn't be yeah, Hispanic. Well, I do identify as Hispanic, so I guess I can make that argument. But yeah, it would sort of go as Hispanic crime. It would sort of fall within that pool of Hispanic crime.
mhm. Yeah, that from what I understand, I don't think Hispanics commit the I feel like they commit less crime than white
Yeah,
people. At
but the
least
number doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. The numbers just it doesn't really. My point is that if a black person commits a crime, and a person just points out, well, black crime seems to be pretty rampant, around the area or whatever, and like they just post like what's that 1350.
mhm.
I don't think that's racist in my opinion. It's like posting facts. It's just not. I don't. Since when is that racist? I just don't understand.
The fact in and of itself doesn't mean anything. It's the context surrounding it. Like somebody just saying Jewish people are disproportionately in positions of power. That's true. But the context that comes with that statement is literally all that matters. That's it. That's all that matters.
Right, but let's sort of like break down the context. Again, I'm bringing up enough context to sort of make a determination, but you sort of keep going back to like it just depends on the context. Well, let's say the context in this case is there's like a mass shooting or whatever, right? School shooting, for instance, and
Well, hold on. The thing that you just said a second ago. So I agree with you that, like, you are bringing up the context, and each time I'm answering, but then you say, well, since when is just stating a fact racist? Just stating the fact isn't the thing, it's the context that's the thing.
okay, so let's say that. Okay, so let me bring up this context for you. So let's say that in the middle of let's say a conversation, because I'm going to talk about crimes because that's like the most common thing we're talking about. In the middle of a conversation about let's say it's like a group of black people, whatever, on Twitter. They're talking about reparations or whatever. They're talking about and I think I've actually seen this happen. And this white guy jumps in and say, well, I think you guys have had enough reparations. There's a lot of crime going on. Blacks are committing 50% of the crime, and a lot of you are not getting arrested and so forth. So, there's sort of your reparation for you. You've been, released from jail or prison or whatever. That should be good enough of reparation. Is this something that you consider to be racist?
Reparations?
Reparations, yeah.
Not necessarily, no.
Well, no, the response to the demand for reparations, saying that okay, you guys already commit 50% of the 50% of the crime, therefore, and a lot of you aren't getting arrested for it or something like that. That should be good enough of a reparation. Like that should be there's your reparation for you.
What? I am so lost. You're saying that they're not getting arrested for the crime, and so not getting arrested.
Well, what the guy said was that because they're not getting arrested for like the large amount of crimes that they're committing, that is like a favorable thing. That's like a good thing for them. Therefore, that should count as reparation. That should just like compensate for the basically reparation. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess. No,
but
I wouldn't.
Would that be considered to be a racist? Like, would you consider that to be racist? Like, as a racist
not.
Statement? Okay. So, in what context would you call that? Like pointing out black crime or any other type of crime or whatever that applies to a group as a whole.
Like racism. I said, like some negative outcomes, pushing negative tropes or negative stereotypes, those sorts of things.
Give me an instance.
Like like you said earlier, somebody commits a crime, black guy commits a crime, people start commenting 1350.
But people don't just comment 1350. It's not just like a blank, it's like a blank, just like a simple sort of comment of 1350 right on like the crime that's been committed. Well, that could also imply that well, let me rephrase it.
They do.
If they were to instead of saying 1350, they would just say, well, I mean, I get it. I mean, they are 13% of the population. They do commit 50% of the crime. So would that be considered to be a racist statement?
Probably not.
Just commenting 1350, what would be the difference between those two? Because they sort of entail the same explanation in a way.
They don't. 1350 is like meant to be like a racist thing. Like it's meant to be like, black people are bad because they commit 50% of the crime. It is a statement about.
So because of the connotation that it has, because of the connotation that 1350 has, you would just automatically consider that to be just racist. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of you effing, what's are committing a lot of crime, and I get that. I have to like fucking run away from you. You would not consider that to be racist because it has context within it.
What is the example?
if the person, instead of just saying 1350, like, without any context, if they were just to simply say, well, a lot of you efforts, whatever, N words, commit a lot of the crimes, so I need to like fucking get away from you, like some type of comment like that, would you consider that to be racist?
Yeah, of course.
Why would it be racist at that point? What would make that
S-
comment racist?
Saying that you need to get away from black people because they commit a disproportionate amount of crime.
Well, that would be the rational conclusion, wouldn't you agree? I mean, if a group is committing a large percentage of the crimes, I mean, you would want to. The logical conclusion would be to want to get away from that group, right?
So getting away from a group isn't a thing, but you can get away from like individuals
Okay,
in that
moving
group.
away. Let's say there's like a predominantly black community, right? But
Mhm.
because of the high percentage in crime, you're now moving away from a predominantly black community because of the high crime, right?
Yeah, sure, but you're
Would
not
this
moving
be
away
considered
because they're
racist?
black. You're moving away because there's a high amount of crime.
Well, you're also moving away because it's a predominantly black community, and if it tends to be a
If you're
very
moving
common
away
thing,
because it's predominantly black, then yeah, that would be racist. If you're moving away because they
I
commit a
mean,
lot of crime, then no, that's not racist.
but let's say if most of the predominantly black communities tend to, well, if this word, I don't know if this is true, but I'm not even going to assume, but if most of predominantly black communities happens to have very high rates of crime, and you happen to move away from predominantly black communities, well, or predominantly like high crime areas, would that be then considered racist?
You're moving away from high crime areas.
Because they also happen to be predominantly black.
Yeah, if you're including because they are black,
Now,
obviously
because
that's
no
going to
one's
be
going to say
racist.
that I'm moving away because these people are black. They're just going to, okay, this is a high crime area. And I'm sort of noticing this pattern that, a lot of these predominantly black areas, they tend to, have a lot of high crime. So at that point, if their next neighborhood is not predominantly black, if they're trying to intentionally at this point avoid predominantly black areas, at that point, would you consider this to be a racist approach?
Again, it's going to go back to the same thing. If it depends on the reasoning. If the reason is because they're black, then yes, that's racist. If it's because
What do
there's
you
a
mean
high
if the
amount of
reason is
crime,
because they're black? That doesn't make any sense. No one's ever gonna like move away from a person and say, "I'm just leaving because you're black." I mean,
you
it's like,
keep
okay, they're just
changing
gonna
it,
blame the
dude.
crime.
Dude, listen. Okay, you keep doing this. Okay, so when you give a hypothetical, you are building the world. You create it, right? You make that world.
I know how
But
hypothetical
then,
works.
no, you
But
don't. But then you say afterwards,
okay,
but nobody does that. We're not talking about what people do. We're talking about what that person is doing. You decide what they are doing. You decide what it is that they are saying. You decide what it is that they think. You decide the reasoning behind it. You decide that. You can't say, this is my hypothetical. And then when I answer your hypothetical, you say, well, nobody would ever do that.
okay. Let me
That's,
make it more
that's
clear
totally
and
different.
precise. If the person at this point picks up a pattern that a lot of these predominantly black communities tend to have very high crime,
Mm-hmm.
and they get to just point that out and say, "Well, it tends to happen that a lot of these predominantly black, majority black areas, it tend to just have very high crime. So I'm not gonna bother even, trying to move into those areas."
Mm-hmm.
While that's also true, would you call that racist?
No, because it sounds like their reason for not moving there is because there's a high amount of crime.
But they also pointed out that it also happens to be predominant. It happens to be common among predominantly black communities.
They are pointing it out, and that is true, but the reason is because of the crime. So it's the same thing. I mean, they keep saying the same
Right, but that's
thing. It
like an
depends on the
impossible
reason for it. It's if
standard
it's
then to
about.
have. So I
Huh?
don't think like people don't just like fucking move away because like a person's skin color looks different. Like people, yeah, well, that's probably like a factor.
There's always reasons for why people don't like black people. There's just not good reasons.
Yeah, but it's like it's never gonna be simply because the person is fucking just black. That's not how that works. It's always gonna be for like ulterior, like okay, they're these people are sort of like the kind of behavior that these people have. I'm not like okay with it. Maybe like the crimes, the kind of like crimes that they commit. Or what. There's always gonna be like outside reasons, but it tends to be centralized around their skin color. You see what I'm saying?
I do. And I'm saying that yes, people use different reasons to not like black people, Normally, it's just that they don't like black people. They're just like
But
using other reasons
right,
to
exactly.
excuse the fact that
So
they don't like
because the
black people.
pretext is not
So
that they're
I'm saying
black,
that
you're
in
saying,
your
okay, well, yeah, you get
hypothetical,
past it. That's not racist.
I'm saying that in your hypothetical, we would decide if the hypothetical is about somebody who actually doesn't want to be around the crime and that's why they're moving away,
Right.
or if it's somebody who doesn't like black people and that's why they're moving away.
But do you think that there's ever a person who would be considered racist that the reason why they'll move away is simply because they just don't like black people?
100% yes.
Where is this person that I like have not like? Okay, there's nothing wrong with. There's no crimes. There's nothing. It's not even that I cannot relate to them. It's just that I don't like the color of this. It's like, where does this happen?
You're oversimplifying it. I keep saying people
But that is
who
what we're talking about.
no, it's not. Like people use other reasons for their racism, but it's still the racism that is the problem. What have you never heard of white flight? Like white flight,
Yes.
okay?
And do you
So
know why white flights in many cases take? It's not because the people moving in are black. It's because of what happens in those areas that pushes them away. It's never because they just look different. I mean, the people are just not white anymore.
there
Their
wasn't
skin color is just darker, bro. So I'm just like gonna
there
fucking like no.
bro,
It's
they
always
didn't
because of
have
outside
big
reasons.
no, there weren't big problems with crime rates back in like the 60s and 70s with black people. It wasn't until like the 80s and 90s that that started
Right.
happening.
It's also because there was very little in common with those that they have with them. But you're
Yes,
also justifying that if you don't get along, if it's this very little in common with as far as culture, whatever goes, that you have with those people, those are not reasons that include their actual race. You can just there are other white people that a lot of white people, whatever, they move away from others because there's certain white people, for instance, like Ukrainian or Russians or whatever.
yeah,
A
but
white
you're
American has
talking.
very
Hold
little
on,
in common with a
wait.
Russian. They can still move
White
away for those reasons.
white flight was where black people were moving in, and they were like very much so a minority and spread out, but just having a black neighbor made people want to move. And then when they'd move, another black person would replace those
That's
people,
because there was
and
a
then their
stigma around
neighbors
that.
would want to move, and then another black person would replace those people. That's how it actually happened.
Right, but that's because there was a stigma around that. That's because they sort of like had in mind what having a black neighbor meant. It could
Yes.
probably mean an increase of crime. It could probably mean plenty of other things. It's not just okay. This person's fucking skin color looks different, so I got to fucking move now. No, it's
I
because
understand.
they had in mind that okay, having more black people in the community will bring a lot more crime, so a lot more different cultures, a lot more different behavior, things that people will now want to live around. Probably crimes. When
Do you
there's crime,
think
people don't want to be around that area. So what happens? The property value drops, and therefore you don't want your fucking homes to lose value, so you fucking leave right before it's too late.
yeah,
So
but that's not actually the case when it's, like I said, when they are like a large majority, like they are a very small amount of people in this area. They are very spread out. They don't actually compact like that to where it would lower the value until people start moving out. Now, real quick, do you think slavery was racist?
slavery, I think that this movie a little, and I got this take from Max actually, and it'd be weird because like you may think I'm kind of unoriginal, but I used to think it was, but I don't think so anymore. I think it was in a way, but it's not for like the common racist reason that people think, right? I think that it was racist because well, I get to whether or not it's racist later, but I think that slavery just happened to be that people just needed labor. I can't stand your fucking chat. I'm sorry. Okay, people just people just needed labor, so like cheap labor or whatever. And it was like a normal thing back then. So I think that what ended up happening is you had indentured servants, you had things like that going around.
Mhm.
So I think what ended up happening is that people, I think in the Americas and places like that, they just started to. I don't know why, because they did have indentured servants, but it's like they there was this notion that white slavery or something was like looked down upon or something, or I don't know what the name of that scientist. I don't fuck, I don't know. Charles Darwin, whatever. There's something that went around that area, that around that time period, that sort of pointed out like different differences in IQ or whatever, like that
Yeah.
kind of science, whatever that went around.
This is literally why I
Yeah,
brought this up,
and
because the most racist thing to ever happen happened because there were reasons for it. They
right,
said
right.
that black people weren't actually human. They're not the same
Yeah,
species
but
as
my
us.
reason for why black people were the chosen slave was not because they were black. It's because they were like the most accessible people to
Yes,
enslave.
wait, but
And
there
I mean,
were
like,
other
if
people.
Chinese were like, if Asians were the
Wait.
most
Hold on.
accessible, they were chosen Asians, I think.
Sure, but that would still be racist because there were other accessible white people that they just chose not to kidnap and put into slavery, right? So
Um,
it is like when you say like, oh, well, it's just as long as they're a different race and they're accessible, now it's not racist.
right,
No,
but going
it's
back to the
the
argument,
making it that it
no,
is
but
about a different
I feel
race.
like the reason why it's
No,
like
no, no, hold
going
on,
back.
wait,
Oh,
hold on. The fact that it is a different race is what makes it racist. And the reason I bring this up is because we are looking at the most racist thing to ever happen in the history of humankind. And you're saying, well, I don't even think I would call this racist. Well, it's going to be impossible for you and I to have a conversation about what racism is when the thing that is the most racist thing ever, you don't even consider it racist.
no, I agree that it's racist. I did agree that, obviously considering a different group of people and enslaving those people, considering them to be inferior,
Uh huh.
I would consider that racist. Yeah,
Wait,
I
but
don't.
there were actually like scientists. Like the scientists were telling people that they were inferior, that they were animals, they were not humans.
Even if that's true, I mean, I feel like a lot of truth are racist.
Okay,
Yeah,
exactly. So when
a lot
you're
of things that are
saying,
true are racist. I've never disagreed with this.
okay, exactly. So when
They're
you're
just mean.
saying,
I mean, racist are just things that are mean that people are hurt by.
yes. So when you're saying, hey, but they have other reasons, like it's not just that they're black, it's just there's lots of reasons attached to it that actually, like, it's never just going to be
No,
that
I
they're
was talking
black.
about the
No,
reasons that people
duh.
give you, the reasons people
Yes,
would give you for moving away. They're never going to say, "Oh,
I
I'm just moving
understand, but
because
I've
you're black." I'm
explained
just saying,
over
like,
and over that that doesn't matter because like the reason has to be packed into the hypothetical in order
no,
for
it
us to have
does.
a
No, I
conversation about it.
disagree with that sort of
Then I
framing that you're
can't,
setting here.
okay, then I cannot answer your question if I don't know why it happened. There's no way for me to answer whether or not it's
Why?
racist.
What happened?
Why somebody would move away. If you do not tell me why they moved
Okay,
away, it is literally impossible
okay.
for me to tell you whether or not it's
Okay,
racist.
do you agree that while admitting that, let's say, if a white person has a perception of like a Hispanic or a black person or even an Asian person, right? Let's say that a Hispanic person, oh fuck, I can think of. Let's say a black person, right? Let's say because there's like a lot of you know stereotypes or whatever going around. If you have the perception that having black people around you would increase the level of crime, the rate of crime around the area, it would increase the amount of robberies and things like that, and like the culture that you have around the community, things would just be different. People, their mannerisms would change and things like that, right?
Hmm.
These are things that you can also attribute to a lot of black people, to black people in general. And those are also characteristics that you may not be in favor of. These are things that you may disagree with. It's just things that you find,
So, a
unfavorable.
black
You,
people as a group are more likely to commit crimes. But black people, like a
but that's not what
black
I'm arguing. Let me finish.
individual,
That's not what
hold
I'm
on,
arguing.
stop. No, because you're the way you're saying it, a black individual is not more likely to commit crimes. Just because an individual is black does not mean that
I
that
never make that
individual.
argument. I don't know what you're talking
I
about.
understand, but when we're talking about racism, we're going to be talking about these on interpersonal levels.
But
And
you're
then
making
when you
these
say,
responses. It's nothing that I've said.
yeah, hold on, chill. So then when you say that, like, oh, well, actually, they are more likely to commit crimes, and so blah, 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 we're talking about people interacting with individuals. And so now, if they are taking this trope and attaching it to individuals, then yes, that is going to be racist.
A lot of your fans are a lot of your communities. They're I don't know. They're still invalidating my Mr. Girl fans credentials, so I don't. Anyways, no, but I think that that doesn't even go against anything that I've said. You just sort of like for the purpose of disclaimers. I get okay, fine.
No, because you keep saying, I literally just told you, is because you keep saying that they can move away and that there actually is this higher likelihood of crime because they are black. And I'm saying, no, not on an individual level. No, that is not true. They are not more
Of
likely to commit
course,
crime on,
I'm not saying that they are, but my point is that if that is the perception that even if the perception is wrong, if that's the perception that they have, my point is that that's what they'll think will happen.
correct?
And as they accumulate, after the percentages gets larger and larger, percentage of black people gets larger and larger in the community. That's what they'll have in mind. Okay, that means that the crime is going to increase. I'm sure that they're like only 3 people in like the community or whatever. They're probably not going to think that is okay. There's the minority. They don't have a substantial enough amount for them to sort of feel comfortable doing those. That's probably what they'll think. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I feel like as the numbers do increase or whatever, people are going to like that perception is going to kick in a lot stronger. And
Mhm.
and even if all of those people that moved into that community committed 0 crimes, that they were not anything like that, I feel like they still move away because that perception of that possibility is still there. And yeah, but they will never admit that they're moving away because those people are just black. It's because they're just okay. I feel like things are changing. The fabric of the community is changing. I don't feel comfortable enough. It just doesn't feel like the neighborhood that I used to live. Like there are always going to be other things, just other than just like their skin color.
Yeah, we call those things dog whistles.
Sure, but whatever you may call it, it's still not racist because by your own admission, you're saying that saying anything other than their skin color is by default not racist.
No, you're doing this again. I am not saying what they say. I am not saying that what they say is the reason. I'm saying what the reason is.
But unless you're able to read their mind, there's nothing else you can do.
So what? Okay.
Yeah, but you have to go with what they say because you're not able to read their minds. Some of them are actually moving away for those reasons. Some of them are actually not moving away. Who cares? That's what they're saying that they're doing. So what? You can't read their minds. You can't call them a liar or whatever.
Okay.
So again, the standards that you're setting for like whether or not a person's racist for like moving away or white flighting or whatever, it's not realistic. And that's what I'm telling you because almost no one's ever going to say that they're moving away because a person's black or like they hate black people or like they hate other groups. Like that's not how things work. That's not how people respond to things. Or those are not the type of reasons that they'll ever give you for moving away or doing things like that. So.
Again, all of the reasons that you gave are the things that I would be looking for. Like, the fabric of the community is changing. Like, okay, yeah, that sounds like an obvious dog whistle. Like
but that could also be true.
It could be, but
how would you just assume that they're being racist? Oh, it's just a dog whistle. Even that could be true, but it could also be a dog whistle. Someone just go with the like. What?
Yeah.
Yes. Just yes. That's just. It could be one or the other, but I'll go with the worst one. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
Okay, so you see how unreasonable that is. What you're saying right now is it doesn't make any sense. It's unreasonable.
Well,
because a person could actually legitimately
don't think it's unreasonable at all.
For those reasons, but you're just saying, yeah, okay, whatever. I just think it's a dog whistle, whatever. You're racist.
It's not unreasonable at all. If you're saying the fabric of the community is changing, what could you mean besides race? Like, what else are you talking about now?
That people aren't. I don't know. It could be plenty of other things. The people that are moving in here are not people that I can get along with anymore. I used to have a lot of neighbors that I knew, people that used to be more talkative, more. Wait, what?
Sounds racist.
What the fuck are you talking about?
If there's a growing black community in where you live, and you're like, yeah, I just don't get along with the people who live here anymore. Yeah, that sounds pretty racist.
Why would that be because they're racist? It could just be the people that are, the people there could actually not get along very well with that white person that's there.
Yeah, probably because they're freaking racist.
The black people are racist?
No, probably because the guy is racist. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna get along with the black people
Doesn't
if
make
they're
fucking
racist.
sense. How would you know if he's racist? What if they just don't get along with him? What if the black people moving in, they have their different culture. Maybe he doesn't fit into it that well, and things could just not work out. The way that his way of greeting people, his way of interacting with people is different from that of the people who have a different culture. Why would he
Yeah,
be racist for that?
it's just usually going to be racism. Yeah, like even the way
And
you're
racist
describing
doesn't
it
mean
just
anything.
sounds freaking racist.
Have you ever been to a fucking school that's diverse, where a white kid sits with the black kids or whatever, Hispanic, they don't have a lot in common, so they don't get things don't get to work out that well.
I went
Like,
to an all black school, went to an all black church, lived in an all black neighborhood. Yes, I am well aware.
okay, so you for not getting along well with the black kids. Let's say if you were not able to get along well with the black kids or whatever, you were not able to fit in that well. You'd be called racist.
Not by being able to fit in, but if I was like, oh, I'm not talking to these people anymore because they're just not my kind of people. I just don't get along with these kinds of
But
people.
that's
Or
not ever what anyone's going to say.
oh my
That's
goodness.
not my kind of people.
Brandon Cavallaro
This is
super chatted $3.35.
what are you talking about, dude?
Peacemaker, please stop. Have
What?
resorted to giving
I don't know, dude.
No one's ever gonna say it's not my kind of people. What the
Okay,
fuck?
I don't care. I don't care.
It's like you said to me,
You're
you smuggling these dog whistles into what I'm saying. It's just hilarious.
these are literally things that people say, but I'm not talking about what people say. We're talking about what people would say for us to say that they're racist. And
Well,
then
I guess then being racist doesn't really mean anything. Like this guy said, Tuesday 13th, like, okay, being true doesn't make it not right. I mean, I guess then racist doesn't really mean anything then. It's what's even how do you run away from racism? Just,
I know lots of racists who
live
say
a
that.
miserable life.
I think it's obvious to everybody else, but normally it's racists who are like, well, it's just saying something true. That's racist. Wow. Everybody thinks everything's racist now then. But no, just saying something true isn't racist. It's the context that comes with it. It's everything else surrounding that makes it racist.
So some just innocent white person, just in his neighborhood, just doesn't look the way that it used to anymore. He's suddenly, okay, I'm moving out. And someone were to ask him, okay, why are you moving out? What's going on? It's oh well, I just don't get along as well with the neighbors. They're not really that talkative. They don't really that open to talk to. I don't really get invited to activities or anything anymore, cookouts or whatever, things like that. He's moving away because there's not very much he can do. He doesn't get along well with anyone. Doesn't have very much in common with the community. You're saying to this person, I'm sorry, I gotta stop reading your chat.
No, that sounds different. No,
someone just drop 30 fucking point of IQs. Okay.
No, that sounds different. That's a lot more context.
You
that
would
would make
tell
it
this
sound like it's not racist anymore.
Because the problem is that no one's going to explain these things in a way that's going to sound racist. People,
bro,
a lot of these things could simply be because they're black.
This.
But the point is that you're the context around it's always going to be because they have very little in common. The place has become unlivable, or plenty of other things. It's not simply okay, I'm moving out because these I don't really like these people. They're just they're black. And it's that's not how people don't ever communicate those reasons to anyone. What are you talking about?
You're just wrong, but that's fine. It doesn't matter. The point is that you're saying how what is it that would make these things racist? I'm explaining it very clearly. And I do know people who say these things. I've heard these things a million times, especially from groypers. They say these things in my chat all the time. They think they're super slick, but they're not. It is always obvious.
Give me an instance what these people say that it sounds racist or whatever.
So 1350, or oh, what, a black person committed a crime? No way. Obviously, yeah, okay, it's not all that crazy. They're not wrong, but obviously the way that they're interacting with it makes it blatantly obvious that they're being racist.
I see. So the way around it, if it's said in a very sort of demeaning way, that's what you call it, in a very sort of mean and insensitive way, that's what you call it racist. The statement itself is not racist, just how you say it.
Yes, that's what I keep saying, is the surrounding context is what's going to change these things. So like just
Um,
stating that, like I said, just stating a fact is not racist, but the surrounding context is what will change these things.
um, but I feel like people can just like easily weasel out of that.
They can, they don't.
What's like it's like the most simplistic standard like weasel out of.
Again, they like I don't.
Well, if you just like say racist things
You're
in like a
making
nicer
this
way, people just
impossible to
the
engage
racism
with.
out of
Like,
it.
yes, but this is how they do it. They all do this purposefully because this is why they're called dog whistles. Is because they're trying to get the same point across without saying the things, right? This is exactly why they're called dog whistles. So like, you know, like there, it's a common thing where if a black person gets arrested, they call them a thug, right? But a white person gets arrested and it's just a criminal. These are obvious. It's an obvious dog whistle to keep calling the person a thug. Like they're looked at very differently for being a criminal as a black person than they are if they're a white person who's a criminal.
By the way, people are calling me like a Groiper. I'm not a Groiper. I don't know if that's like a new thing in your chat now.
Yeah, he's
I'm like
not
the
a
fucking worst
Groiper.
person ever now.
He hangs out in like the politically
Yeah, I do hang
provoked
out like around
community,
the
but that
politically
that's
provoked.
not. He's not a Groiper.
I don't know if they're like actual Groipers either. They're probably like I mean, they could be. I don't know. I'm not like
All right,
labeling
I
them
gotta
that.
get off.
All right. Well, same here. I have to go to work in like 7 hours. So
All right, later, dude.
I'll talk to you later, man. Hey, by the way, do you check your DMs?
Yeah.
Did you read the the last one? I don't know if you'll. I send you like the last DM.
So the only way to do that is to give you streamer perms, and you have to actually have like a channel and everything at that.
Oh. Well, you sort of leaked what I said, but that's.
Okay, sorry.
Anyways, yeah, that's all right, man. Thanks
All
for
right.
thanks for the
Later.
talk. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, bye.